If you want to make your basement warmer, there are a few things you can do about it. Some things work better than others. I'll explain a little bit here on this demolition site where we have exactly the cross-section that we need for this story. Most basements in the 1960s, built in the 60s, 70s, and to a lesser degrees in the 80s, were built this way. You have a layer of dirt that's compacted, hopefully, but anyhow, a layer of dirt, and then 3 or 4 inches, say 75 or 100 millimeters of rock, either crushed rock or like this rounded river rock. And on top of this you have 50, 75 or 100 millimeters of concrete. So there are 2, 3, 4 inches of concrete. Now concrete is porous material. It's not waterproof, so any moisture coming up from the groundwater, is gonna go through, rise through the rocks and will seep up through the concrete. I'm not seeing any seepage or any water damage on this concrete here, but in general, through capillary action or just high groundwater, moisture from the ground will rise through the concrete. So if it's wet, it's cold, and laying tile on it is not gonna make it any warmer. Here is some tile. The tile could be vitreous, and then hey, I found money. The tile could be waterproof, but it doesn't really fix the cold situation, because underneath the concrete could be miserably cold. The same for the foundation walls in a basement, very cold. So what they started doing in the 90s on is put a layer of plastic, a sheet of poly, and a layer of PVC or polyethylene film that's put on top of the rock, so that stops any moisture traveling up. If it ain't wet, then it's at least dry and it's somewhat warmer. You can also see that the plumbing here exits the building there through those cast iron pipes, and so what that it doesn't guarantee, but where the level where the drain pipe, the drain system is at this height. So if there is high groundwater, it will rise to about this height, because this is about where the drain pipes are. Not necessarily because they might drop on the outside of this foundation wall, but in general, you know, so that might be the reason why your basement floor is miserably cold. And what you can do with it, yeah, this, rip it all out and start all over again. They also started putting rigid foam board insulation on top of the polyethylene sheet, so the floor is not flipping cold. And what can you do with the walls? Here is one solution. Gluing drywall or gypsum board onto it directly doesn't really work, doesn't really make it any warmer. You can see the big glue patches, and it also doesn't solve the issue of if there is rising groundwater and moisture seeping up, then all this is going to mold from behind on the back side. So what does work for the walls is nailing wood on with hammer drill, and in an L shape. So that's one piece, and the other piece would be nailed on the first one. So you have to make the L's first and then just nail it on the concrete, yes? And then I'm just hold it with my knee, and then you have the studs. I just picked up garbage, but you would have a 1.5 inch stud here, wide, 1.5 inch wide stud. You can put insulation here. You can also coat it before you nail anything on it. You can coat this, you can put a polyethylene sheet on it, the same 6mm poly, and once you have your L's nailed up in place, you can of course put insulation here and then put drywall on it. That is what's gonna work a little better than gluing drywall directly onto concrete. So that's all I want to say about that. Your options are somewhat limited, especially with the floor, but it is what it is.